It exploded, it exploded, it exploded. I was stunned when the explosion happened. My legs are shaking.
It was loud over the Russian capital again. On the night of August 18th, the Moscow region was attacked by drones. Local residents reported explosions, and Russian air defense systems were operating over several districts of the region. More on all this in the following report. You're watching TSAUA News, and I'm Alina Turishin. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Well, let's get started. According to statements from Russian authorities, dozens of drones were allegedly destroyed over the region. And now for the traditional Russian reality. Following the air defense activity, there are reports of damage and fires. In particular, a logistics complex caught fire in the Moscow region after the attack. 620 drones were flying towards the Moscow region, claimed the mayor of the Russian capital, Sergei Sobyanin. Some of them were shot down, he claims. Separately, reports appeared online about a possible hit in the area of the Moscow Oil Refinery. But the facility itself is not new to Ukrainian drones. The Moscow Oil Refinery in Kapotnya has been a target of attacks multiple times before. In particular, on June 18th, Ukrainian drones struck the facility, after which a fire broke out on the plant's premises. And one more piece of footage that is actively circulating online today, a Ukrainian FPV drone flying in the direction of Moscow. These drones have already demonstrated the ability to reach strategic targets deep within the Russian rear. And against the backdrop of the attack in Moscow and other regions of Russia, according to OSINT analysts, a rush has started at gas stations. Queues are forming at gas stations. Drivers are rushing to stock up on fuel.
Guys, I honestly cannot believe we actually made it. After all the hard work and everything we have been through, we are finally here.
Zaverka, we'll try now. Well, the line, in short, is basically up to the traffic light with just a small gap. Well, actually, with a few gaps. All the gas is gone, except for the 100 octane, a line. Let's see now.
We currently have 4 pumps working, and they've been running for 2.5 hours now. We barely made it through the line.
See for yourselves, no exaggeration. This is probably the 5th gas station I've driven around to now, just to see if there's a shorter line anywhere. But it looks like I'll have to wait, just like everyone else.
So, the classic Sochi gas situation. So this is over there, the gas station, it's actually over there, right? And from over there, there's this line, this whole string of cars, right? Well, I'd guess we're probably about 2.5 kilometers away from the gas station. All these people are waiting to get gas. And this line goes on for a long way.
It was also restless at 11 Russian airports. Let me remind you, a few days earlier, Ukrainian defense forces struck one of Russia's key logistics facilities, a large Wildberries marketplace warehouse in Koledino, near Moscow. On the night of August 16th, explosions were heard over the Moscow region. Russian authorities reported a drone attack and the operation of air defense systems. Subsequently, a large-scale fire broke out in the Koledino area, and videos of the burning logistics complex quickly spread across the internet. And the scale was significantly more serious. Footage from the scene showed a huge area on fire and thick black smoke that could be seen from far away. We are talking about a massive Wildberries distribution center with an area of about 250,000 square meters. It was one of the company's largest logistics hubs in Russia. Goods arrived here, were sorted, stored, and then shipped out across the country. The size of the complex is effectively 250,000 square meters of warehouse space. And here's a telling story about how they deal with business problems in Russia after attacks on logistics facilities. Russian officials couldn't come up with anything better than suggesting that Wildberries sellers who lost their goods due to strikes on warehouses take out microloans. In at least 6 Russian regions, the authorities are officially calling such loans, and I quote, a support measure for affected entrepreneurs. For example, in the Novosibirsk region, sellers are being offered loans ranging from 30,000 to 5 million rubles at an interest rate of up to 14% per annum. According to preliminary estimates, the minimum losses for Wildberries sellers could amount to 600 to 700 billion rubles. But it is telling that even Russian Z authors acknowledge the scale of the problem. They write that Wildberries customers are reporting that they were allegedly not allowed to remove goods from the warehouses. And they add that life for Wildberries will never be the same. And for many companies that built their business around this marketplace, the consequences could be even more serious. Also, Russian Z supporters are speaking more and more openly about the consequences of this war. They admit that many in the Russian rears still imagine the war as remote strikes with missiles and drones, as if whoever launches more is the one who wins. But the reality, they write, is completely different. Modern warfare has turned into a struggle where it's extremely dangerous even just to approach the front line. Russian soldiers are dying not only during direct combat, they suffer losses even during the stages of moving up, deploying, and attempting to reach forward positions. Z-bloggers directly describe the so-called kill zone, an area where practically everything living comes under fire. He talks about destroyed settlements, wrecked equipment, and the bodies of the fallen, which sometimes remain on the battlefield for weeks because their evacuation itself becomes deadly. And he draws a telling conclusion. Parades, medals, and victory toasts will come later, but for now, the war looks completely different, like silence and death in the so-called gray zone. But while Russians are dying for imperial ambitions, the Russian dictator himself seems to have no idea how to live without war.
Once the special military operation is over, what will we do? I mean, they are so caught up in this, you know? They do it with such heart and feel their involvement.
Russia's war against Ukraine is increasingly turning into a war of attrition and is effectively taking on the characteristics of a total war, where strikes are aimed not only at the army, but also at the economy, energy sector, logistics, and the home front. This is reported by the Kiev Independent, citing military personnel and analysts. Former Australian Army Major General Mick Ryan explains, total war involves using practically all of a state's resources to achieve military objectives. And this is already clearly visible in Ukraine. Since 2022, Russia has been systematically striking energy, transport, and port infrastructure, as well as industry and logistics hubs. At the same time, Ukraine has gained more capabilities to strike behind Russian mines. Oil refineries, warehouses, logistics hubs, and other facilities important to the Russian economy are coming under attack. In response, Moscow is intensifying attacks on Ukrainian economic infrastructure, including warehouses of large companies and port facilities. According to military analyst Mykola Bieliskov, the logic of this war is increasingly coming down to who can inflict such economic and human losses on the enemy that they can no longer compensate for. And here, the issue of human resources remains particularly dangerous for Ukraine. The country's demographic potential is significantly smaller than Russia's. Moscow, for its part, is currently trying to compensate for losses through large-scale recruitment of contract soldiers, offering them huge payouts, although the recruitment rates, according to experts, are already approaching the level of losses. Therefore, after the state Duma elections, talk of a new wave of mobilization may arise again. If the Kremlin takes such a step, Russia will gain the ability to sustain large-scale combat operations for longer. And this means the main thing. The war is looking less and less like a short exchange of blows, and more like a struggle of resources, economies, and people. The question now is not just about who will capture more territory. The question is, who will be the first to not withstand the cost of this war? And would you like to see more videos of attacks on Moscow? Let us know in the comments. Stay with TSA.ua to keep up with the most important news. Take care of yourselves, and see you later.